Welcome everyone to the Addicts Truth Podcast. My name is Recovery Jon. Thank you guys for coming back. Today I'm excited for our guest, Tyler D. Loreto, someone I've been connected with. A very similar story, but I've never heard the full story, so I'm excited as much as you guys to hear. Tyler, thanks for coming on, man.
Of course, man. Thanks for having me. It's fun. It's fun to finally be able to do it. I know we talked about it. I, said earlier I wanted to do it at the right time too. I think now is the right time. I think at that point I only a year and some change sober, so now being able to do it with my 3 years coming up next week, it's exciting.
Congratulations.
Thanks,
What's the actual date?
October 28th, 2022. So
Nice.
It'll be 3 years sometime next week, and get that coin at the end of the month just to celebrate. So
Yeah, and we connected on. I actually was driving here. I couldn't remember the name, but Survive and Thrive.
yes, yep.
Wellness event I put on, and you got to come on. You had the clothing wear we're going to talk about there. Giving back. It was amazing. It was cool too because I don't think I knew at the time. I met you in the gym.
Yeah.
And you were like, bro, I'm sober too. I was like, oh shit, that's awesome.
Yeah, I think you were selling your book or talking to different people about recovery there. I had the pop-up for the Beat the Odds performance apparel there. So it was a good time. It was cool. It was awesome to have, an event like that because you don't find many that are mental health and addiction or anything like that, So it was a good time. Yeah, we met and kind of clicked. And, as I've, talked to you and watched different videos you've put out there, I've realized, wow, like our stories are identical, really. I was telling you about that. So
yeah, so let's get into it. We can start either, what did your using look like, or maybe what your childhood looked like, and we'll build it up to that.
Yeah. Dude, honestly, like my childhood was great. I'll be completely honest. I would say upper middle class family. I grew up on a street that was a cul-de-sac with 10 houses and 15 or 16 kids lived on the street. So it was constant go outside, play kickball, like your parents send you outside with your shoes off and tell you to wipe your feet before you come in the house. You know what I mean? No complaints at all. Both my parents, they work busy jobs, so they're constantly working. And I did go to a private school in high school, but even going back to my earlier ages, I don't know, man. I think I always knew that there was something a little bit off about me. I don't know the right way to say this, but sometimes I'll tell people, like, I think I was born to be an addict, unfortunately. Like even 4 or 5 years old, 10 years old, there was things that I was doing with an addict mentality. It doesn't matter what it was. Oh, I want to ride a bike. Well, I'm going to learn how to ride the bike until my knee is all the skin scraped off my knee or something,
Yeah.
But yeah, I went to private Catholic school. So did that to play sports, was always active in that. And I think that's kind of where the addiction started for me. I was at a school where people had a lot of money. They had money to spend. I had friends from public school, and it made it accessible and easy to do. But, like I said, it started earlier on. That's just where I had the ability to actually take advantage of it. It was pretty normal growing up, just smoking, going to different parties and things like that on the weekends. Was still able to function and play the sports that I wanted to play, which was hockey and lacrosse at the time. And then I would really say probably my senior year is when I started to see that it was a problem. I would smoke before going to practice in the morning, before practice at 4 a.m., and then between practice and going to class, smoking again. And it didn't really inhibit me at that point, so I thought it was perfectly normal. I had dreams to go to college and to maybe play, club hockey or whatever it may be. I wanted to go to a good school and enjoy it, but that quickly went downhill.
I want to ask you a question. Because I don't think there's a right answer. I don't think scientifically we even know. People ask me all the time.
Yeah.
Give my best guess. What do you think, looking at your personal addiction, we'll say, do you think it's, like you said, either genetic or you're kind of born with it? Or do you think, was there a trauma spot that you changed after? Or do you think it was like self-medicating for ADHD? If you had to like guess or pinpoint?
I think it's a little bit of everything. Honestly, I think it's case to case. I think some people, it's something genetic that they're born with. They unfortunately grew up in a family that had a lot of alcoholics or addicts. But there's also times where there's trauma. It's a trauma response, right? For me, a lot of it was probably, self-medicating for mental health. The anxiety when I was young was insane, through the roof, from the time I was in 6th, 7th grade. I was close to 2012, so I thought the world was ending in 2012 with the whole Mayan calendar thing.
Yeah.
And I just remember being in the psychiatrist office at the school, or the school therapist, whoever she is. I was constantly talking to her about it, so I knew I was self-medicating at a certain point with smoking, at least, right? That's what started it for me. But yeah, I don't think there's one story that fits for everybody,
Yeah, I mean, I always say I think I got the trifecta. I mean, I had a lot of trauma around 12.
Yep.
I like turned from God and got angry after that. My grandparents, most are all were alcoholics, and a lot of aunts and uncles. And they say it skips a generation. So like a lot of my aunts and uncles and parents aren't. And me, my brother had a problem drinking. It shows that it skips. And then I also have ADHD and I'm a nut. So it's kind of like, I think I hit the trifecta. But I would like to ask people, because people ask me and I'm like, well, there's no right answer. And I think it's case to case. So
yeah,
I'm always interested. So I started with like the smoking. Now, when did that progress, or what did that progression look like into real addiction?
Yeah, I think I started getting curious senior year, like I mentioned, whether it was just like messing around with the Adderall, or maybe somebody had, some Molly or something like that. And I was just like, that'd be fun. Like, let me try that. Also probably the same time, or maybe a year later, just mushrooms and hallucinogenics and stuff. But it was all very recreational at the time, and nothing that was super addictive, I would say, at that time. As I got to like 18, 19 years old, I realized it was a big problem when I would sit in my car. I was going to Central at the time, local school. I was commuting, and, like I would smoke in my car and skip class. I quickly flunked out of college. So it didn't work out for me, and that's fine, because I don't regret my story whatsoever, or that part of my story. But that's where I noticed it was a problem. I would say 19 is the first time I really tried a drug that I knew was going to be an issue. Smoking wasn't enough, so I was like, hey, let me try some Xanax. Somebody had it, right? And obviously with the ADHD that I also have and the anxiety, so that might work, and it did. It did everything that I thought it was going to do and some more. And, just constantly hitting up the same plugs, and they had a new drug for me to try. I'll tell you the story. The first time that I tried dope was by accident. I was going to a plug's house, and he always would smoke while I was there and whatnot. And he's like, hey, do you want to hit the bowl? And I was just like, yeah, man, like, for sure. This is big at the time when smoking dope was still a thing. Like, I used to sprinkle it on the weed bowl a little bit and take a hit, but that's how I hit it. And he was just like, it's a little strong, like, hit the bowl, thought it was the best thing in the world. And I was like, what is this, man? And he's like, you don't want to know. And he finally told me, and I started to get curious about it at that time, at least. As where I grew up in Rocky Hill, it's pretty close to Hartford. So very accessible for me to just drive there and find my own drugs at a point. So 18, 19, that's kind of when I started to go reach out and look for my own connections and people that I wanted to pick up drugs from, and I did. I was in a pretty toxic relationship at that time too, and I think relationships are, a big part of recovery, but also can really, push your addiction past what it was already, or make it worse, I guess you should say. Just the verbally and mentally abusive relationships where, telling me stories about, or she would tell me make up these stories about what she was doing, and it never made sense to me, and that really messed with the anxiety, just made it 10 times worse, made me want to just sit home and use while she was out doing God knows what at the time. So that relationship, we used together, we drank together, and that made it worse for me. That's kind of what pushed me over the limit to now being like an everyday user. So yeah, I just explored everything until I found something that really worked. The first time I went to treatment was 2017. So I've went 17, 18, 19, took a little break, went back in 22, and that's when I got sober. So constantly in and out, like every good addict, at that time.
How many was that? So how many times have you been to treatment?
I went to inpatient 4 times. I've done outpatient, dude, so many times I couldn't even tell you.
Yeah. I think mine was like maybe 4 or 5 trips, like 7 total places, and countless meetings and outpatient. And what was it like the first time you tried? It's funny too. For me, crack, I tried by accident too. Like, I knew I was using, but I was falling asleep, and my friend, rest in peace, he was just like, he's passed away because of his addiction, but he was like, hit this, because I was like nodding out. And I was like, oh, I hate weed, dude. Like, it's gonna make me sleep. And he just gave me that look. And he's like, hit it. And I was like, all right. He's like, it'll keep you awake. And I hit it. And I was like, whew. Like, life became a NASCAR game at 2 in the morning, I tell people. And we'll get there. But yeah, we've talked about that. Touched on it briefly outside. But what did you feel like the first time? Like, did you know, say, like, first time you smoked dope? Like, what went through your mind? Or what did it feel like you knew, like, oh, this is going to be a problem? Because I know for me, like, opiates, heroin, Oxycontin, like, those type of drugs, different than drinking. The second I did it, I was like, oh, this is real good, and this is going to go real bad. Yeah.
It felt great.
Yeah.
It calmed all my anxiety. Like I said, 4 or 5 years old, 10 years old, I knew I had that addict mentality. Didn't know it at the time, but as I look back on it, I knew I had addictive traits. And I knew that it did everything that I wanted it to do and more, as I mentioned. So just that calming feeling where I had no anxiety. And I like to do everything to the best of my ability. So like any good addict, I started stealing pretty quickly from everybody. You know, for example, my horrible story, but you know, my parents had an in-law apartment on the back of their property. My grandmother lived there at the time. So it was constantly, you know, she would leave to go play bingo, dude. You know? I'm running over to the house.
The bingo time.
Let me see what gold she has, like going through all the drawers and stuff like that. And I did it to my whole family constantly, very quickly too. You know, there was no, let me just start with Percocets. Let me ease my way into it. It was full-blown addiction very quickly. You know, I had a broken hand one time, and from punching a wall, obviously from being high and that messed up relationship that I was in. I remember punching a wall, had a broken hand, was withdrawing, and you know, I didn't know that I was withdrawing from drugs at the time. I ripped the hard cast off my hand just because this crazy, stupid stuff. You know, you got an itch in there, or like your brain just you can't think right. You know?
No, I mean that was for me, and I think that's why it's so important to talk about the self-medicating. You know, it's like, yeah, there's a party side and it feels good, but it's really we're self-medicating something so that we don't have to feel the way we feel anymore. You know, at least for me, and I'm sure, like you said, you were self-medicating for anxiety and other things. And family, you look at a loved one, you're like, what's wrong with this person? Like, what happened to the person I loved? But you know, you think they're an asshole, but really they feel the most uncomfortable when they're sober. You know, and at least myself and all addicts I'm speaking to is like, yeah, it's like that's the only time I felt right was when I used. And that's definitely interesting. I mean, I relate to the bad things, the stealing. I used to steal like change from up like anything, man, like anything, like
cans, returns.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Recycles,
My dad would
cans.
like keep his Coors Lights cans, and then I would return them all.
Yeah.
Just sad shit, man. But thank God we do recover. So, I mean, at what point did you feel like was kind of a low for you? I mean, you're like punching walls and smoking dope and shit. When did you kind of like look at this like this is?
You know, like coming from the family that I came from, I didn't really know what withdrawal was going to look like or drug addiction was going to look like. So I would say the low point for me was when I realized, oh shit, you know, I'm getting sick from not doing drugs, and I'm a full blown addict at this point. That was probably the first low point. I would say that happened 2016, 2017. I remember my parents had people over, you know, and I texted my mom. I was like, "Ma, you got to come upstairs," because at this point I'm already locking myself in my room, smoking dope out the window and stuff like that. And I'm like, "Ma, you got to come upstairs." And this was after I ripped that cast off. I was like, "Mom, I'm withdrawing." And she was just like, "What are you talking about?" I was just like, I'm coming off heroin, Mom. And like came out and straight up said it. And I remember the look on her face was of disbelief, and she had no idea what to do. You know, they had no idea how to help me. They had the means to help me and to help me find the right places to go, but I didn't know what to do. You know, I went to an outpatient program, stayed sober for maybe a month, and then right back doing the same thing. Figured out, hey, like I can get away with the drug test they're giving me once a week if I use on Monday and they don't test me till Friday. You know what I mean? Wow. So that was probably the first low point. We'll get to some of the others later on, but that was the first low point where I was like, this is it for me. You know, my sister, she's 5 years younger than me. She was in the house all the time, saw me overdose multiple times. She saw me in and out of the house, whether I wanted to stay at my ex-girlfriend's at the time or go use with some friends. I had a using buddy who passed away from an overdose a couple of years ago. That was pretty tough. And just the stuff she saw, you know, like when I think back on it now, she went through a low point just like I did around that 17, 18, 19, 2017, 18, 19, that is. But that was the start of the low points. It gets worse than that, you know, as time goes on. You know, you got COVID. I got nothing better to do but get high, right? So I didn't have any purpose in life, no job, nothing like that. So it was constantly, let me just find how to get high and how to get by. That was it. I tell people that.
Yeah, I always say I'm scared. I don't think I would have made it through COVID. Like, I was sober. That was my first year of sobriety. Like, I'm like, that's scary because, like, the rest of life, all I did was get high. But if you had me stuck at home,
Right.
yeah, I would have got sober or probably OD. Like, that's just a lot of time to sit around, you know? And I feel like it made a lot of people and broke a lot of people. But what was the family during your addiction? What was, like, the reaction of your family? Because I know it puts, like you said, it puts a toll on them. I know it put a huge toll on mine.
Yeah, I'll start with this and then get into that because I remember when I got sober this last time, my mom knew. She had a feeling that I was going to stay sober. She said, I've never slept so well, you know, this time around, knowing that you're here in treatment than I did in the past. And that one hit me, you know, knowing that my parents quite literally couldn't sleep at night. Your parents are your parents. They have a sense of, you know, you came out of your mother, right? So like my mom, at least, she had this weird sense where every time I was going to overdose, somehow she would come upstairs and like, there I was laying on the bed or on the couch, like I was, you know, gurgling already, having the death gurgles, and she'd hit me with Narcan. Can't even tell you how many times they've hit me with Narcan, but, you know, so they wanted to help me. I've talked about this with a lot of people because some people say, hey, what's the right approach? Like, do they push you into treatment? Do you know, you got to do it on your own? I think it's a combination of both. I've had them try to push me into treatment and they did. Never worked. This last time around, it was them knowing that I had an issue and knowing that I had the ability to go to them and say, hey, I have a problem this time around again. I need to go to treatment, and them being willing to at least send me, you know?
Yeah. I think that's I get that. I mean, especially, yeah, with my platform, man, people ask all the time and it's tough. It's like, there's no right answer.
Right.
But I think it's make sure that line of communication's open. I'm sure you feel the same. Like, once I felt comfortable asking my parents after relapse for help, it was way easier to do. Once I felt like, ooh, I'm in trouble, I'm going to get a spanking, even though I'm 25. You know what I mean? Yep. I'm not telling anyone. I'll deny it for days, years. But once I felt comfortable with them, it made me at least feel okay to ask and get help faster, you know?
Right.
But there also is like, you don't want to enable. So it's an impossible balance almost. As this went on and, you know, your mom's going through having a Narcan you and stuff, obviously it's a lot on you, a lot on your family. You're in a toxic relationship. What would you say was kind of like one of your rock bottom, or what did like your worst look like that kind of prompted you to get help?
Yeah. So before I got sober, this last time in 2022, started smoking crack for the first time. I was just like, hey, I've done everything under the sun. This is something I haven't done yet. Let me try and see how it is. And having the ADHD that I have, it didn't do what I thought it would do. I thought it was going to be, you know, hey, I'm doing a little cocaine and it feels like that times 10. It gave me this calming sense while still having a rush of energy, which was strange because I never had that before, you know? And that drug grabs onto you and every part of your life and just destroys it. You know, it's really messed up, but I know a lot of people say this. I was doing opiates to get by, to feel normal, and that's exactly what it did for me. But once it got into crack, it was horrible. You know, I was stealing times 10 now, stealing my parents' credit cards. I wasn't even staying with my parents at this time. I remember one night I told them, I was like, hey, I got to stay with you guys. I don't feel good. Didn't really tell them what was going on. They had an idea, but stayed with my parents, took my parents' credit card, went out that night, grabbed all the cash I can at the ATM, and I was gone for 3 days, you know, 3 days just on a crack binge, and no one knew where I was. I had my parents looking for me. And that was my final rock bottom where I said, my parents know what's going on. They're not accepting of it, but they're willing to get me help. I just need to take that step and say, hey, I got to go. And I did. You know, I remember texting my parents at like 7 a.m. after being up for 3 days. And I'm like, Mom, I'm parked in a parking lot right now. Like, I need help, and I need help now. You know what I mean? Because that's how dark it gets. You get to this point where you have nothing going for you. You know, I had no job. I had no stable relationships. My relationship with my family was horrible, and I ruined their relationship with each other. You know, my parents would argue, my sister would argue with me or my parents, and it's the complete opposite now, you know?
Yeah. No, I think I remember just, you talk about the hold of crack, and it's like, you call people crackheads and the stigma, and I was like, I can't be that bad. And then one day it was 3 a.m. and I was like in my car smoking crack, and I looked around and I was like, oh, I'm a crackhead. Like, this is what it's like. It's all you care. Your life is like, it's like you have blinders. It's like just more and more, need more crack. Like, and I was like, I thought dope was bad. I mean, there's really levels to this. And
Yeah, the best way to explain it is opiates made me feel normal. The crack just took a control of my life at that point. Not that opiates weren't controlling my life already, but like I felt like I could manage my life a little bit, or somewhat maybe, you know?
No, I was on like perks and opiates and each. Like I worked my way up to running a 1,500 person call center. Like I was the third highest person in the company. Started crack, and I was like, I told you in the parking lot, 30 days later, I was in my first rehab. Like, it just sucks your life out. Like, I just looked worse. I had less money. Like, I was taking things. I was doing things I would never do before, even with opiates. It's a scary drug. So what was that time? How did you transition into that last time into rehab or getting help, or what made you feel comfortable?
Right. So the last time I went to rehab, I was obviously using opiates on and off, but I kind of took a break, and again, that's when I went to just crack, which is a horrible idea. I mean, if you're going to do it, at least maybe you do both at the same time to keep you level-headed. But so decided to get off opiates. This is like a month before I decided to go to rehab, strictly smoking crack. Life was horrible. Was gone for 3 days. Left my parents in the dust. They had no idea. My family had no idea where I was. Friends had no idea where I was. Like I said, made that call, decided to go. And I remember telling my mom, my memory's horrible, man, just from all the using. But I remember specifically telling my mom, I said, if I'm going to go back, I want to go back to Mountainside. Because I've been there 2 times previously to this. I went there in 17, 18. I went out to California to try that. And then 19 went back to Mountainside again. And then 2022 decided. And I knew I had a taste of the program, right? I was going to meetings in and out between 2017 to 2019. Just trying it, right? I would go to meetings, make people happy that I was going to meetings. I would meet people, and I saw people that were happy and like they enjoyed their lives. So I knew it was there. I was constantly giving out my phone number, hanging out with people, but I never on the inside really wanted it. I was trying to work a program of my own, I guess you could say, but never really immersing myself into it. Still hung out with the same people, lived in the same places. And in 2022, when I decided to go, I said, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it the right way. So when I went to Mountainside, I decided, I'm going to do the extended program. I'm going to stay there 4 or 5 months, whatever I need to do to figure my life out. And that's a big thing. A lot of people in recovery, they talk about, hey, like, this is an internal job. This is not just change the people you talk to. You got to change everything. Because I say all the time, the lifestyle of an addict is just as addicting as the drug. I loved the idea of stealing, of, chopping up pills, of whatever I was doing at that time. That was just as addicting for me. So I had to figure out ways to switch that up. And one of those ways was in the gym. I started going to the gym pretty quickly when I was in treatment. Luckily enough, they had a facility that you could use while you were inpatient. And, having an athletic background at that time, I knew that this was something that maybe would pull me out of it at least. But the first 6 months were rough, man. Like I was, at inpatient for the 35 days, stayed at their extended care program where you had some freedom for a little while. You got a car after a little bit so you could stay there, just sleep there, get a job, whatever it was. But the gym was really what started it for me. And I know that's something that you're into as well.
Yeah, no, fitness definitely a pillar, between like 12 steps, God, fitness is like right there, top 3. I think that you said something that's huge: internal job and the habits of the lifestyle. I think those are the 2 big topics people don't get, because people all the time text me like, "Yeah, I'm just trying to do a cold turkey." So I'm like, "So you're just gonna take away crack, and then what are you gonna do? Right. You think everything's just gonna be normal? Like, first we have to fix the inside, and then that chaos. I don't know how you feel about this, but I had to take this realization one day in sobriety, when I was talking about the chaos and the habits and lifestyle, that I was like, it's almost like we don't want to look at our life. So it's fun focusing on, oh shit, I owe him 50. How am I get 100 for this bag tonight? Like, let's sit here and crush up these pills. It's like it blinded out my fears of death, my fears of like, am I loved? My fears of, am I worthy? You know what I mean? Of failure. It's like, I'm already a failure, so I'm comfortable. I'll just stay here, But that's interesting. And fitness was huge. So you got into fitness, you said the first 6 months were rough. Where did that change, or how did you start to, really start to embrace that internal job?
Yeah. So like I said, I had the idea. I knew that AA was there. Obviously, it's pushed onto you a little bit more when you're in a treatment center and at their extended care program. And started going to meetings, got myself a sponsor. I did do the 12-step work with a couple sponsors at the time, just because I knew it was something I was going to do. And there was no reason not to do it. I had nothing better to do but time, no job, no good relationships with my family, friends, you know, starting to build back those family relationships. But I was still a little scumbag, you know, like I'm in treatment. I had no money, no job. So I'd be like, Ma, I need $50. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it was probably for something stupid like protein powder or like a vape, you know what I mean? But I knew that was a problem. So going through the 12 steps with the sponsor and being around the people, that helped me so much. It really opened my eyes to, okay, there's clearly a better way of living here. And it did, you know. Fitness kind of got brought into my life because I needed something else to do. And it quieted my mind. You know, like when I was in the gym, everything got quiet. And I told my therapist that all the time. I said, when I'm at the gym, I don't have this constant running going on in my head like I do all the time. You know, it was the new self-medicating for me. I kind of replaced the drugs with the gym, and it worked. It worked for a long time. You know, my fiance and I started a fitness apparel brand that I mentioned in the beginning, I think, and Beat the Odds Performance Apparel. The whole idea is we want people to beat the odds that they're up against, right? Whether it's a mental health issue, whether it's an addiction or alcoholism issue, could be even something simple like a body dysmorphia or eating disorder, whatever it may be. We just want people to feel comfortable in their own skin, get out there, you know, exercise a little bit, releases those endorphins that make people feel good. So that's why we started it. You know, we donate a portion of all of our proceeds back to mental health, addiction, sometimes just people who need a helping hand. We've done different cancer organizations and things like that at these pop-ups events like the one that we met at.
Yeah.
You know?
No, I love it. I got to tell you, my girlfriend at the time got me to buy some, and I need to get more because I know that I wore it out. I wore it for like 30. She's like, bro, you got to stop wearing that every day. But it was real comfortable, you know? I was like, oh, I'll take a look at this. And I love like comfort stuff, and you know, we're into fitness, so a lot of times I'm in sweats or a hoodie or a nice like more of like a fitness shirt. And I wore that shit for 30 days straight.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. It's good stuff. But so where can people find you guys?
Yeah, so we got a website. It's btoperformanceapparel.com. On Instagram, it's just bto.performance. So we try to post some videos there. A lot of what we've been doing recently is working with WestCon, local college actually here in Connecticut, and 6 or 7 of their teams we clothe. So we do like travel suits similar to the sweatshirt I'm wearing, just in the color of their choice, the logo of their choice, with our brand logoing. So they kind of get to customize them, wear them out. It's cool to see. You know, when we do anything related to the college, we give back to an organization called Young People in Recovery. I'm not sure if you've heard of it.
That's sick.
So we donate a portion of their proceeds to that organization. You know, they're young kids. They're in college. It's kind of where it escalated for me and a lot of people that I know, my addiction at least. So to reach out and branch to those kids that are in college and bring awareness to them, it's been awesome, you know.
That's sweet. That's awesome. And you're looking to do, right? More schools, more sales.
Yeah, of course.
Want to build it, right?
Yeah, man. We worked with UConn actually recently, which was pretty sick. It's a NCAA Division I school, you know. So we got to work with the hockey team there and do some stuff with them. I'll have to show you some pictures later, but it's awesome.
Yeah. So any colleges listening or work for college or a sports team or a pro team, whatever, get you connected. That's amazing. So yeah, I'm definitely going to order more. We will tag it all in the bio on YouTube and TikTok so people can click the link and check out what your website's got and order some stuff sent to them.
Yeah.
So then now that we've talked about that, you know, you started to give back. Obviously, service is big for me. Service was big for you. You're doing your service with that. What has life been like since you have that going? How are the relationships?
Yeah.
Your business, personal life? How's everything going so far and coming up on 3 years?
Yeah. I think, you know, after those first 6 months where I was really struggling to find myself and finally did the internal work, you know, I did the internal work through AA. I think my mindset switched a little bit probably after the year mark, maybe 2-year mark, where I was starting to get things back, right? And in no way do I think I'm better than anyone, but I think AA works for a lot of people and probably the majority of people. But I'll be honest, I've slowly drifted away from it. And the reason being is I wanted to continue to build what I already started with AA. You know, it was tough for me living up where I live so far from my family. I had to make all new friends, but I wanted to rebuild those relationships. And that was tough going to meetings every day, I'll be honest. So life's great now. You know, I got a solid career in sales, been in sales for a little bit. I absolutely love it. I get that part from my mom. My mom's been in sales since she was 18. So, you know, life's good. Trying to find success in every aspect of my life. My recent fiance, we got engaged in July. So having a healthy relationship is unbelievable to me. You know, somebody who is not an addict or an alcoholic, but understands where I'm coming from and I can have an open line of communication with is huge. And I think that's important for everyone, whether it's you want to be able to openly communicate with your family or your friends about what's going on. Being able to communicate with my fiance is just as important. So we'll be getting married next year. We're excited for that, but life's good. You know, I really try now to focus on making sure I have a good career, making sure I have things to look forward to, making sure my relationships with my family is good and my significant other, you know, like that's what I focus on now. And don't get me wrong. Do I think AA is great? Yeah, I think it's phenomenal. You know, I really appreciate what it did for me at the time. And I know it's there that I can pop into a meeting at any time and will be welcomed with open arms. But I just felt stuck at times, you know, after doing the 12 steps and starting the clothing apparel business. That was my service. And it was tough for me to, all right, I feel like I completed this triangle that they talk about all the time, that there's no end to it though. Addiction's nonstop. Right. I get addicted to work. I get addicted to the clothing business. Like all that stuff is what's important to me now. And I want to continue to build on that.
Yeah. No, I like that. And that's why I told you when we were walking in, I like the part of the podcast that's different stories. Some people have never been to AA. Some people hate it. Some people, even in my personal life, I know people like are 40 years clean. This one guy, he still goes like almost 6-7 times a week. And that's cool for him.
Right.
You know, we talked about how I go like periodically, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's times when I don't. There's times when I do a day or 2 days a week. There's times I do once a month.
Right.
But it's interesting because it's not one size fits all. And that doesn't, you know, I like the way that you articulate it because I'm even careful of other things I do and don't like because maybe that will work for someone. You know, because an addict hears like a little thing and like, oh yeah, then I don't have to go to AA. Me neither. It's like, well, if you're 2 days clean, you might want to check it out.
Right,
You know, but, you know, I have one friend I took. He came. We went through the steps. Actually, no, I got him a sponsor because he's a close friend. And so I got him a sponsor. I was like, we're too close. I can't sponsor you. He did the steps and just never went to a meeting again. And he's mad successful, 4 years clean. So it's like everyone's different, you know. As long as you're doing well, that's all that matters. And obviously you are because it's cool. I like that you came on. And it's funny to hear. I'm not big on war stories, but that's why I make sure people tell a couple.
Right.
Because you're talking about your mom Narcaning you, you're smoking crack.
Right.
And look at you today.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's so cool. That's why I love being brought through someone's story because it's like, people say that to me and I don't see it in myself. How could you, like when I date new girls and stuff, how could you be like all these crazy stories? Like I've never seen you doing that. Like you're so like type A now and such a good guy. And so it's funny listening to you. You're stealing your grandma's gold and shit and coins. And, you know, you're giving back. You have your own apparel company. Congrats, you're getting engaged.
Thank you.
I'm sure people that, you know, are struggling today, snorting stuff, drinking, whatever it may be, listening to this can see that. And you could be a beaming light for them that, you know, whatever their future and service will look like. But if you could do that, if I could do this, anything's possible.
And that's the whole thing for me is, you know, I mentioned in the beginning that I wasn't sure it was the right time to come on when we first talked about it, you know, a year and a half ago, whenever it was. And it's because I used to just war story, right? Because trust me, man, I can go into depth about all the things that I did. I know you probably can relate, and most people watching who at least were struggling or are struggling can relate to. But that's not what helps people. You know, that's where I struggle with, you know, sometimes people telling their story is just, I did this, I did that. And listen, man, if you're watching this, you most likely did all those things too, you know? So for me, it's more so like giving people different avenues, right? As you just said, like AA is open, NA is open. There's avenues for just finding a sober coach or getting a career that keeps you out of the trouble. You know what I mean? It's different for everybody. And for me, I found what is working for me while knowing that there's different avenues I can still take, like AA.
Yeah, that's amazing. Well, I appreciate you. We made this happen. If you're ready, I'll ask you the last 3 questions.
Yeah, that's it.
People usually get a kick out of it. I'm excited, you know, to see where you take it. I would love to. I'm gonna grab some more clothing and see how I'll connect you with whoever I can. Like I said, it'll be in the link for anyone that wants it. Like I said, if you ever have someone struggling, I'm always here to help too. Thankfully, I have a lot of resources, and you know, I think that's the cool thing is that we're all being of service. You know, you just being able to tell someone where you're at today is huge. You
Right.
know? So let's start with one. Say you're on a rough day or your go-to at any time. What is your favorite either quote, AA saying, whatever is your kind of thing when you're like, I need a little motivation?
Great moments are born from great opportunities.
I like that.
Herb
I've never
Brooks.
heard that one. That's nice. Who says that?
Herb Brooks, coach of the
Really?
1980 U.S. Olympic hockey team.
That's
And
sick.
because I use it in my career, I've used it for my recovery as well. Like, hey, I have an opportunity to get sober. I'm going to take that opportunity and use it, you know, my best of my ability. I just want to be able to do everything that I can.
Sick.
So yeah.
Love it. And what would you say to someone struggling today that needs some motivation?
It's a good one. There's always help out there. You know, you just have to find the people who are willing to help you while you have a willingness to get help. It's a two-way road. You know, there's constantly people going on the right side that are willing to help, but you also have to travel on that road and say, hey, I'm going to reach out for somebody's hand and ask for the help. And there's a way out. There's always a way out. I thought it was endless. I thought I was going to be born an addict and die an addict, you know, even though I wasn't using drugs at 1 year old, 2 years old, you know, but I was fully convinced that I'm going to die with this mindset that I'm different from everybody else. And I quickly realized that that's not the case, you know?
And lastly, we'll switch it up a little for you, but coming on 3 years, for year 3, what is the biggest thing, or this last year, what's the biggest thing that you're grateful for?
My relationship with my sister. You know, I've talked a lot about relationships with family and friends, but I had my sister give me my 2-year coin last year, and she cried. She cried the whole time. It's my best friend at the end of the day. You know, I can say anything I want to her, and I know that she's gonna accept me with open arms regardless. You know, regardless of everything she saw and was put through at that age. Having her give me my 2-year coin this last year, watching our relationship continue to grow, it was a step for her too. And that's why I say recovery and being sober is not just for you; it's for everybody around you, because everybody's down in the dumps with you when you're in full-blown addiction, you know?
No, absolutely. I love that. That's awesome. And yeah, I think it's amazing to hear how you've affected other people. I'm sure the people watching are thinking about their brother or sister, aunt or uncle, mom, dad, grandma, that if they get sober, they could fix that, you know? I know no one wanted to talk to me for 10 years.
Yeah.
And now I can't get off the phone, you know what I mean? Or people call me for help. And I'm like, wait. You were my idol my whole life, you know? And it's amazing the change. But you're a proven, you know, just example of how that can turn out for someone that's struggling. So I appreciate you for coming on, man.
Of course, man. Thanks for having me. It's been a pleasure.
And where can is there handles for Instagram or Facebook?
Yeah, so if you search Beat the Odds Performance Apparel, you'll find Facebook. Instagram is bto.performance. Website is just btoperformanceapparel.com.
Yep.
Yeah, we'll put it down below. You know, get yourself some apparel. Know that you're giving back to a good cause at the end of the day. And you know, my fiance likes to post all the TikToks and the videos and stuff like that. I'm not good at that part of it. So, you know, you'll see her running a marathon on there and stuff like that. She did the Hartford Marathon recently. So
nice. Awesome. Well, let's get it out there. Thank you for coming on, man. I'm happy we made this happen. Congratulations on 3 years. And we'll have to have you on soon in the coming years and see how it's going then.
Yeah, we'll touch base soon. I appreciate you having me, man.
All right. Appreciate you guys. Thank you, Tyler, for coming on. Drop your comments, likes, follows. Thank you for listening for another podcast of The Addict's Truth. Check out Beat the Odds Performance Apparel online, and we will see you on the next episode.